All right. Thank you all for joining today. This webinar is hosted by the National Offshore Wind Research and Development Consortium, also known as NowRDC. This webinar will be giving in-depth information on our currently open Solicitation 4.0. I'm Corey Grunwald. I'm a senior program manager at NowRDC. I've been here for about 3.5 years, and I'm leading the administration of this solicitation. I'll quickly pass it to my colleague Julian to introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Julian Fraze. I'm a program manager assisting Corey today, and with the solicitation a bit in general, I'll be monitoring the chat and the Q&A today. So ask questions, and then we'll screen them and hope to answer them all for you. Thanks.
Thanks, Julian. So today we'll start by giving an introduction to NowRDC for anyone not familiar. We'll then get into Solicitation 4.0, going into each topic area, looking at different project eligibility criteria, and just in general, what's entailed in submitting a proposal. We'll give some advice on crafting a strong proposal. Then we'll conclude by going over some high-level details about the upcoming timeline and how to stay updated on the solicitation. At the end, we'll get to Q&A. And just some housekeeping items here. So all of the attendees are in listen-only mode. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted to our website within the next week. Throughout the presentation, we encourage you to submit questions via the question box you have there. We'll get to as many as we can at the end of the webinar. Additional questions can be submitted via email to info@nationaloffshorewind.org. We recommend submitting particularly questions that relate to topic area fit via email. We can try to get to them today, but sometimes they require more in-depth consultation and can be really project specific. So if we don't get to any questions like that today, feel free to submit them to our email at any time. And then also just a reminder that all information covered in this webinar can be found often in greater depth in the request for proposals or the RFP. And then there's also additional document attachments available at our solicitation webpage, nationaloffshorewind.org/solicitations. So we'll start by giving an introduction to NowRDC. For anyone not familiar, we were created in 2018 by the U.S. Department of Energy and the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. They created a 501c3 nonprofit organization to advance offshore wind technology R&D through competitive grants. Together, they formed a funding pool of $41 million for offshore wind R&D projects. Since NowRDC's formation, we've had 7 states, 10 developers, and 10 other public and independent members join the consortium. We are a nationally focused, not-for-profit organization that collaborates with industry to fund prioritized R&D activities to achieve several things in our mission. First, we aim to accelerate the deployment of offshore wind energy in the U.S. Second, we try to address challenges and obstacles facing the offshore wind industry and maximize economic and social benefits associated with offshore wind. We also work to reduce the levelized cost of energy of offshore wind in the US. We work towards our mission through several core activities. We fund innovation that's directly responsive to the technical and supply chain barriers faced by offshore wind project developers in the US. We convene strong networks that bring together technology innovators, research institutions, developers, supply chain companies, utilities, and government agencies. We also work to increase US content and job opportunities. This is our membership and our board of directors. There's a lot of great, effective organizations here that help advise what we do, spanning from government and utilities to offshore wind project developers to independent offshore wind industry members. And to summarize the innovation funding that we've awarded to date, we've run 4 competitive solicitations. These have resulted in 57 project awards that total over $55 million in R&D grant funding. We've also been able to leverage over $6 million in additional programmatic or leverage funds. To add a bit more color to our R&D project portfolio, we categorize our projects into 7 high-level categories. Clockwise from the top, we have projects in electrical power systems, environmental and conflicting use, fixed structure engineering, floating structure engineering, operations and maintenance and safety, supply chain and logistics, and wind resource and site characterization. Then also to add a bit more detail to our project portfolio, on the left, you can see a map of where our prime awardees and their subcontractors are across the US. We just always like to note that our R&D project portfolio takes place across the United States and is not necessarily clustered in one particular region. We also have issued awards to private companies, the majority of which are small businesses, research universities and institutions, and national labs. We're very focused on deploying project results to ensure that the projects we fund are not just on topic for the industry, but are also shared with the industry. We have project advisory boards that help steer projects in industrially useful directions and leverage the expertise on our board and membership. We also have a project database on our website that's an accessible repository with key information on all of our projects for the public to use. We also host an annual offshore wind R&D symposium. The next instance of this symposium will be December 10th to 11, 2024 in Washington, D.C. This event will also have a free virtual live stream for anyone who can't attend in person. And just to emphasize again, an instance in which our project was able to be used by the industry, we funded a project with Crowley that de-risked feedering solutions for offshore wind installation. This project then translated into a service that Crowley was able to provide for the South Fork Wind Farm and is providing for additional offshore wind construction in the US. Also wanted to highlight our research and development roadmap. The current version is our R&D roadmap 4.0. This serves as our overarching technical guidance document for all of our programming. We update this document approximately every 2 years, and the last version was released in April 2023. And in addition to conducting competitive solicitations, we're finding new ways to deliver on our mission. We've created a joint industry project looking at inter-array wake modeling and mitigation. We're also a part of a couple of technology accelerators and innovation hubs, and we also help advise offshore wind technology roadmaps. Now to get into Solicitation 4.0. To start with some key details, this solicitation will fund up to $10.6 million of projects that address several major areas of need for floating offshore wind, including innovation in ports and vessels, transmission technology, and uncrewed underwater vehicles for environmental monitoring. Proposals are due November 14, 2024. This solicitation is a collaborative effort that has anchor funding from the California Energy Commission and leverages additional funding from the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, the U.S. Department of Energy, the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center, and the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. Now RDC intends to support projects in partnership with the best research and innovation organizations to achieve maximum impact. Proposals are welcome from all geographic locations within the United States, and we'll go over some additional eligibility parameters later in this webinar. Now we'll get into the topic areas. So as highlighted before, this solicitation has 3 topic areas. Topic area 1 looks at innovations in ports and vessels to support floating offshore wind installation. There's up to approximately $2 million available in this topic area. This topic area is specifically designed to spur innovation in the vessels and port infrastructure required to facilitate floating offshore wind development. Project emphasis should be on novel and adaptable port and vessel innovations that can accelerate floating system assembly and deployment timelines. Innovation should increase process efficiency and cost effectiveness, and also be versatile and adaptable to various platform and turbine designs and sizes. We also want to note that the scope for this topic area does not include the actual design or engineering of floating offshore wind turbine platforms or substructures themselves. There are several other funding initiatives addressing those focuses specifically. And a bit more specifically, projects funded under this initiative could propose innovations addressing one of the following technical subject areas. So the first is focused on port infrastructure. So projects under this topic could explore concepts for modular or flexible work areas to accommodate the floating offshore wind system manufacturing, assembly, maintenance, wet storage, and transportation processes. Projects can develop innovations that supplement or can be easily integrated into existing facilities, minimizing the need for extensive modifications and relieving space constraints. Concepts may also advance load handling capabilities to enable efficient loading, unloading, or placement of large and heavy components while enhancing precision, safety, and speed, and reducing downtime. Innovation should have applicability to multiple regions of the US. The second subtopic looks at installation vessels and installation support vessels. So, this topic really focuses on research and development of novel vessel concepts or upgrades to existing Jones Act compliant vessels to support floating offshore wind fabrication and installation demands. This can incorporate advanced lifting and positioning technologies, including innovations in crane systems and vessel or load stability control. This can advance innovations for offshore wind component transfer and for vessels suited to all aspects of the assembly and installation. Now moving on to topic area 2, focused on floating offshore wind transmission technology advancement. There's approximately up to $5.8 million available in this topic area, and the purpose should be to fund projects that conduct feasibility analysis, product design, or demonstration or piloting of high voltage direct current dynamic cables and substations for floating offshore wind to de-risk transmission development and accelerate delivery of mature technology solutions to floating offshore wind markets. Specifically, these projects could design and test innovative solutions for floating substation platform station keeping challenges, including active control systems and mooring load reduction devices. Can also design and test HVDC dynamic power cables for floating substations, including innovative solutions for dynamic cable connections to floating platforms and static export cables. Then moving on to topic area 3, focused on evaluating uncrewed underwater vehicles for environmental monitoring around floating offshore wind development infrastructure. This topic area has up to approximately $2.8 million available, and this topic area is specifically designed to spur innovation in uncrewed underwater vehicles that can facilitate sustainable floating offshore wind development along the US West Coast. Project emphasis should be on 1, analysis to inform a regulatory strategy that incorporates UUVs in order to streamline floating system permitting timelines, or 2, technological advancements to enable the use of UUVs in floating offshore wind deployments. Innovation should enable environmental data collection to support evaluations of impacts of floating offshore wind development, such as physical oceanography, marine mammals, and benthic habitats. This may also include ways to mitigate or minimize impacts to NOAA fisheries scientific surveys. So projects funded under this initiative will propose innovations addressing one of the following areas as they relate to US West Coast floating offshore wind development. 1 is focused on uncrewed underwater vehicles, or UUV, portfolio innovation. So these projects would conduct an integrated systems analysis that evaluates the role of UUVs in supporting environmental monitoring of floating offshore wind energy areas and incorporation into regulatory strategy. This analysis should consider 3 different component levels that are listed here and how they need to work together as one system. This analysis should include recommendations for how a network or suite of complementary UUVs can be appropriately outfitted and incorporated into a practical and cost-effective environmental monitoring strategy to assess potential challenges in midwater and benthic habitats. The second subtopic focuses on innovative UUV technology advancement, and these projects would develop and or demonstrate enhanced UUV capability to address midwater and benthic monitoring challenges specific to floating offshore wind. Proposed novel solutions should integrate vehicle platform/type, sensor technology, and data transmission suitable for floating offshore wind energy areas. Then there's also a third subtopic in which projects can address either subtopic 1 or 2 listed previously. More information on all of these topic areas, including background information, example projects, and public resources, can be found in the RFP, again, at our solicitation webpage. Now to move on to project eligibility. So first, projects must propose as one of the following categories with the following budget caps. So we have A, technical feasibility studies, B, new product, system, service, or strategy development, C, demonstration of technology, systems, or services, and then D, multi-category, in which the project is comprising 2 or more of the categories listed above. To get a bit more into what these different categories mean, again, this is in the RFP, but just to summarize here, technical feasibility studies conduct preliminary research into the concepts underlying new products, systems, strategies, or services as a first stage of development. These studies are necessary precursors to ultimate product development and commercialization. Feasibility studies may include conceptual design, technology and market assessments, and similar early stage studies. And then the budget cap for this funding category is $450,000. And then there's also a duration cap of between 6 and 18 months for the project. Then looking at the next advanced stage of projects, category B is new product, system, service, or strategy development. And this involves technical and commercial development tasks such as lab testing, modeling, market research, etc., that are crucial to the development of a product, system, strategy, or service, and any testing or validation of an innovation that is not already commercially available. So this is the next advanced stage after feasibility is proven. Funding for projects in this category is limited to $1 million, and the duration limit is between 18 and 30 months. Then we have category C, which is demonstration of technology, systems, or services. Demonstration and testing innovative offshore wind technology, systems, strategies, or services that have already undergone product development and require testing to reach commercialization or are already commercially available but have not yet been sufficiently demonstrated in the US to gain industry acceptance. This can include hardware, software, and market development initiatives. It's also recognized that demonstration projects, particularly large-scale demonstrations, may require additional funding. As such, proposers are encouraged to seek additional funds, in-kind contributions, or access to facilities from various offshore wind stakeholders. The funding limit for this category is $2 million, and the duration would be negotiated based on the scope and goals of the project in coordination with NOWRDC program managers. Also, an important note for this category, to be eligible for the California Energy Commission portion of Solicitation 4.0 funding, field demonstrations proposed under Category C must take place in California. Then looking at multi-phase project proposals, so this could be a project that spans more than one funding category listed previously. Each project proposed must adhere to the requirements of that appropriate funding category, including the required documentation in Appendix A and the recommended maximum funding levels. NOWRDC may, in the award negotiation phase, select at its discretion one or more phases for award without selecting the other proposed phases. All multi-phase projects must also include a go, no-go decision point between each phase. Then looking at eligibility in the proposal content. So the full proposal package must be submitted by 3 p.m. Pacific on November 14th, 2024 in Flux, which is the application software NowRDC is using. We have additional instructions for this listed on our NowRDC solicitation webpage. Incomplete proposals may be subject to disqualification, and it's the proposer's responsibility to ensure that all pages have been included in the proposal and have been timely submitted in accordance with appropriate due dates and times. The proposer must submit a proposal using the instructions and attachments listed in Section 5 of the RFP, looking at project eligibility and requirements. Proposals that exceed the word limits or fail to follow the formatting guidelines can be rejected as non-responsive. Also, applications can be subject to public records requests, so applicants should really consider this ahead of including confidential information in their application. All proposals must include, at a minimum, the documents listed on this slide. They are also found in Appendix A and available for download at our solicitation webpage. Attachment A is the proposal narrative and includes additional attachments depending on your funding category. Attachment B1 is a statement of work and schedule for the project. Attachment B3 is a spreadsheet calculator for technology readiness level and commercial readiness level. Attachment C1 is the milestone payment schedule, where you list out milestones and the payments corresponding to those milestones, as well as the schedule for those milestones. Attachment C2 is a complete budget justification with line items for each item of the project. And then attachment D is the applicant assumption of risk form. Then, depending on your funding category and whether you are proposing projects located in California, you may need to fill out the additional documents. All of this should be clear when you review attachment A, but yeah, you may need to fill out the attachment B2, which is the business model canvas template. Also the attachment B4, which is the 3-year financial projection worksheet. And then attachment E, which is CEQA compliance. This is required for applicants proposing projects located in California. Then we have some additional notes on project eligibility. So proposers may submit a maximum of 3 proposals as a prime applicant in any single NowRDC solicitation. This limit applies to institutions, not just to individual PIs. There are no such limitations for project partners or subawardees, so non-prime applicants that are part of bigger proposals. Then also on geographic eligibility, as stated earlier, the lead applicant must be based in the geographic United States. For any subcontractors not based in the geographic United States, the applicant must justify why the proposed subcontractor scope is based abroad and how their work benefits a US-specific offshore wind challenge. And then for cost sharing, proposers are not required to provide any form of cost share. However, it is recognized that for projects such as demonstration projects, project team members may wish to provide additional funding or in-kind contribution to maximize the benefits of the project. Proposers are encouraged to provide any indication of additional funding or in-kind contribution that will be used to support the delivery of the project. Now, we have some advice on crafting a strong proposal. This is based on the scoring criteria listed in the RFP and also based on what we've learned from conducting previous solicitations. So this is fully listed in the RFP in much more detail, but just to summarize here, each proposal will be scored on a scale of 100 with the following weighting applied to each of the evaluation criteria. So the first and the most heavily weighted is project benefits and value. So does the proposed solution address a core technical barrier that is not being addressed by others? Does it have the potential for wide-scale replicability? Will it bring economic benefits to the US offshore wind industry, etc.? Then 2 looks at innovation, state of the art, and technical merit. So does the proposal identify a problem fully aligned and essential to the advancement of one of the identified technical challenge areas? Has the proposer demonstrated insightful understanding of the current state of the art relative to the challenge area, etc.? Then 3 is project plan, scope, risks, and challenges. So, is the project plan clearly defined with fully developed tasks, subtasks, milestones, and deliverables that will enable effective project management? Is the scope of work fully appropriate to the selected problem? And will it be highly valuable towards meeting the goals of the technical challenge area? Then, 4, team experience and capabilities. So, does the proposed team have the necessary expertise and resources to carry out the proposed work? Does the project team include members with industrial and business experience as well as technical skill? Has the project team successfully commercialized applicable products or deployed similar services or completed a similar project before? Questions like that. Then there will be additional scoring criteria assigned to the allocation of California Energy Commission funding. This includes impacts and benefits for California investor-owned utility ratepayers and also project funds spent in California. More information again is available in our RFP in the section pertaining to application screening and selection criteria. We really encourage you all to review this in depth prior to submitting your proposal. And then in addition to understanding the eligibility and evaluation criteria, we encourage you to understand the goals of the solicitation. So to review your topic area in depth and understand the goals of that specific topic area, also understanding the goals of the funders. In general, NowRDC intends to support projects in partnership with the best research and innovation organizations to achieve maximum impact. We also encourage you to focus on novel solutions and knowledge advancements to fill gaps not being addressed by other public funding or developer-specific initiatives. So more information on projects that NowRDC has already funded is available at our project database. You can see the link here, and it's also available from the homepage of our website. And then we also provide example information on similar funding initiatives in the citations and footnotes of each topic area in the RFP. We encourage you to conduct additional research to understand all funding initiatives similar to your proposed project's focus. You may want to consider partnership as well. So proposals should demonstrate knowledge of prior research and or identify partners that have been working on that specific challenge in order to demonstrate that the proposed research will further the overall state of the art. We encourage you to ensure the project team contains expertise that covers all aspects of the project. If the lead proposer does not contain the full expertise required for the project in-house, consider consulting external experts and adding them to the proposal as subcontractors. All prospective applicants for this solicitation are encouraged to seek input from or partner with an offshore wind developer or a U.S. offshore wind materials or services supplier, or include an advisory group of industry and or state experts to ensure the direction of the project and outcomes can be commercially applied. Applicants can become better acquainted with industry through events like offshore wind drinks or industry conferences such as IPF. So then we also have tips for specific application sections. So when given the opportunity to address technical risk in the project or technology, we encourage you to add as much detail to this section as possible. Scores are often familiar with general risks in a given technology area, and they will see reductive risk descriptions as a weakness. When given the opportunity to describe your project plan, we encourage you to add detail that demonstrates how the TRL or technology readiness level and CRL or commercial readiness level of the project's technology is advancing. So try to make it clear how a specific milestone will advance the technical or commercial readiness of the overall concept. Then, when given the opportunity to describe a potential reduction in LCOE or levelized cost of energy, as a result of the technology of focus in the project, We recommend explaining the rationale behind the calculation with detail so that reviewers can verify this reduction themselves as well. Now we'll quickly go over the solicitation timeline. So you may have seen previously this summer in June, we released a topic area preview. This was intended to give a preview to prospective applicants to begin brainstorming what their project might look like. We then released the full solicitation on August 14th and opened the application period. We're now having the informational webinar today. And again, we'll post this webinar recording on our website. We're encouraging you to submit your written questions by email by September 17th. We will continue answering questions after that, but we really just encourage you to proactively review the RFP and submit your written questions as soon as possible. We'll then distribute questions and answers on our website by October 1st, but likely earlier than that, and we'll continue to update it as more questions come in. Then, November 14th by 3 p.m. Pacific, proposal submissions are due in flux. We really encourage you to submit your proposal early just to ensure that there's no technical difficulties and you miss the deadline. Then we anticipate issuing award notifications in February of 2025. And then following that, we will have an Energy Commission business meeting date for award approval of California funded projects. And then for all of the items listed in that timeline, we encourage you to stay in the know. All of this information is available on our solicitation webpage. You can sign up for notifications via email by scrolling to the bottom of our website or go to nationaloffshorewind.org/notifications. And then you can also follow our LinkedIn page where we make announcements similar to our email announcements. Now we're ready to move on to Q&A. So I see there's already several questions in the chat here.
Yep. Yeah, Corey, I've been admitting some. I have a sense of the order here that I'd like to pose them. If I just read them to you, then I'll let you have at them, try to give us an answer. There's been a number of questions looking for clarification about the category C/CC funding clarification or statement we made. Basically confirming whether or not all category C funding is coming through California or what we meant by that caveat there. Can you go into that?
So not all category C funding is coming from the California Energy Commission. The California Energy Commission is providing a portion of the funding available for this solicitation. And for projects proposing demonstration projects in that category C that want to be eligible for that portion of funding coming from the California Energy Commission, their demonstration project, if it's in the field, it must take place within the state boundaries of California. However, if the project is proposed, say outside of California and it's a field demonstration, it would be eligible for the other funding available in this solicitation. If you have any specific clarifications regarding your project that you just want to double check, we'd really encourage you to email us and we can address your specific case.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Corey. And I think one just on that is whether or not we are going to provide what percentage of funds are the CEC funds across the funds in this solicitation.
So we do have that listed across the full solicitation. I believe, well, I can double check on that actually. I think we mentioned it publicly previously, but I can find where we have that.
Okay. Yeah, that solves, I think, all of the questions around category C. Couple questions about federal agencies. One being whether any federal agencies or governmental organizations are excluded from the solicitation.
Can you repeat that, Julian?
Yeah, the question is, are any federal agencies or governmental organizations excluded from being able to submit a proposal under the solicitation?
So I think this is a question that we are looking into. My understanding is that since there is federal funding in this solicitation, federal funding cannot necessarily be awarded to other federal agencies, with the exception of federally funded national labs. Um, we'll be addressing this more specifically in our Q&A document.
Okay. We'll mark that answered. The other piece about federal funding, and I think you touched on this in your answer there, is regarding an open DOE funding opportunity and whether or not funds through this solicitation would be able to be considered a cost share, as there's a cost share using non-federal sources stipulation in the DOE FOA. I think I made that question as confusing as possible, but can the Now RDC funding be used as a non-federal source for cost sharing?
So my understanding is that Now RDC funding cannot be used as a non-federal source for cost sharing because this solicitation does contain federal funding, including funding directly from DOE. If you have a specific project scenario that you're curious about, yeah, again, we'd encourage you to email us to just double check and verify ahead of submitting your application either to us or your separate application to DOE.
Thanks. All right, some clarification on the funding categories and what activities are permitted to be submitted under each funding category. While the categories are clearly defined in the solicitation language, there's question of, for example, if laboratory testing could be part of a Category A project if it's being used to help show feasibility of a particular technology, where that's a activity specifically defined under Category B. But if could they propose that activity take place as part of their feasibility study is the question.
Yeah, so I think for Category A feasibility projects, we typically see desktop work as the most common type of activity done in Category A. I think, though, if the intent of laboratory testing is to evaluate feasibility of a particular technology, it's not necessarily out of scope. It really just depends on what the goals are of individual milestones and if they're working towards evaluating feasibility, or if, yeah, say more typically in a Category B project, feasibility of the technology is already proven and laboratory testing is intended to enhance the design or durability or, yeah, answer engineering questions. Yeah, it really depends on the intent and, getting down to the individual milestone level. So yeah, not explicitly out of scope, but just up to the proposer to really make it clear that this is Category A type work.
Right. And Corey, what might be helpful with that is, and you can clarify this if I'm misspeaking at all, but we have in the past and often see a combination of A, B, or B, C, or all three proposals. So there may be feasibility section of a proposal and then a Category B section as well. So you might do that desktop study and then propose also some laboratory testing. And through that, then you're subject to the increased funding cap under Category B as opposed to just the funding under Category A. So
Correct. Yep, absolutely, Julian. And that's also part of the intent of our TRL CRL calculator. So would really encourage you to do that prior to selecting your category and proposing that in depth, just to ensure that you're in the right kind of area of project activities.
Okay, thank you. I'm screening some of the additional ones. There's some rather technical ones that we may not admit now, but follow up with you later on if we have the bandwidth. Clarification on the caveat we just made there about if you're submitting combined category proposal, whether you are capped at the higher category funding cap, or if it's a combined, if it's an A and B, do you get the combined funding cap of both of those together, or is it just the higher funding cap that you're subject to?
It is the combined.
Okay. There's a question about if there are restrictions for partnerships with educational institutions, or I guess this could be more generalized to any organization that might be outside the United States.
So again, we do have a restriction on the lead applicant. They must be based within the United States, but to the extent that a project is partnering with an educational institution or any institution outside of the United States in, say, a vendor or subcontractor role, there must be justification provided in the application saying why this work is taking place abroad and how it's benefiting a US specific offshore wind challenge. So I think really just making the connection that it's still benefiting the intent and the funder goals that are baked into the solicitation.
Okay, thanks, Corey. Oh, I just admitted another one here. Further clarification about activities in California under category C. The question is it required to have a testing partner in California in order to be eligible to apply? They're looking to propose a project lab experiment using the coastal California as a targeted deployment environment. I'm trying to read into this question. I think I understand that, the clarification I think we need is whether or not that lab experiment would be taking place in California. You can propose labs demonstration or testing in a relative environment under category C, but that in order for it to be subject to the CEC funds, it would have to take place in California still. So I think for that question, the answer is sort of relative to where you would be doing that lab experiment work. If it's outside of California, it wouldn't be applicable. But as we've said, also it's not a strict requirement that your category C proposal needs to have the activities take place in California. It's just that may help, and some of the funds will be allocated toward activities that do take place in California. So, Corey, Did that make sense?
Correct.
Okay, there's lots of questions in. I think we're clearing up the general ones here. There's a question about community benefits and whether or not they could be considered in scoring. Can you answer that, Corey?
So yeah, let me look at our application screening and selection criteria. I think this would be the area in which you could evaluate how community benefits or Justice 40 considerations would be considered. I think they would mostly be considered in project benefits and value. So to the extent that the project, I think, meets the different criteria listed here. Then beyond that, I think it would really depend on how you're incorporating this into the project. If it's involved in the project plan, that could be considered in scoring. And if it's involving the team, specifically, leading the project, that could be considered under team experience and capabilities.
Okay, thanks, Corey. There's a question about advisory boards and whether or not the advisory board is provided to funded projects, or if they should be put together by the project team as part of the proposal.
Yeah, it could be either. So I think projects are welcome to propose their own advisory board if they are already in contact with subject matter experts or, general practitioners in the industry that could assist and guide their project. This can help demonstrate that the project is in touch with, industry guidelines. However, it's not required that a project propose an advisory board. It's something now RDC program managers lead once a project is awarded, and would usually draw from now RDC membership to fill that advisory board. So yeah, in short, could be either. And if it's not done by the project, it will be done by now RDC.
Thanks, Corey. I've just clicked another one through here, asking about diversity and general geographic location of the proposer and/or ethnic gender diversity in the team, whether or not that's considered, and if a DEI plan is needed.
So we do not require a DEI plan specifically in the application. We do look at diversity and geographical location occasionally in our policy factors, which is also listed in the application screening and selection criteria. And we do have a couple of other application screening and selection criteria along these lines that relate to your question. So I think for these kinds of questions, would encourage you to review more in depth what our specific application selection criteria are.
Thanks. I'll mark that answered. There's a couple questions I've clicked through and submitted answers to if they're straightforward. I did just put one in here about whether ASVs are regarded as a kind of UUV in this call. I'm interpreting the acronym as Autonomous Surface Vessel as opposed to UUV being Unmanned Underwater Vehicle. Corey, I think specifically surface autonomous or unmanned systems were left out, correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
and yeah, I think if there's any specific system that you're referring to, would encourage you to check with us via email.
Yep.
But correct that the focus is on underwater, uncrewed.
Okay. All right, we're doing pretty good clearing up the queue. Like I said, there's a couple more at a deeper technical level that we may reserve and see if we can follow up with you afterward. So I won't be clicking those through at this time, or approving them, I should say. And Corey, were you able to see if we had released the funding breakouts between sponsors? It's not something on the standard solicitation page, so I'm not sure I don't know where else we might have publicized that, but that question is still was posed and we didn't answer it.
Yeah, so I think I'll look into that following this, and following consent of the funders, I'll try to publish this in our Q&A document that we'll publish to our Solicitation 4.0 webpage.
Thanks. Yep, and I think we cleared up I admitted that other question about Category C, but that was answered previously. Good. I think that's primarily, there's one more here. Follow-up, let me admit it. A follow-up regarding the vehicle. Are we considering tethered vehicles as uncrewed underwater vehicles? I believe that's ROVs generally is what they're talking about. Corey, do we know if is there a clear line drawn there?
I'd have to review that and follow up.
Yeah, right.
But I'm noting that down, and we'll try to address that in our Q&A document that we publish to our website.
Yeah, good question. Thank you. Good. Yeah. Anybody who's been, just a note here, anybody who's been submitting, I don't know how this looks on your side, but submitting requests to join like the stage, we've been rejecting those. That's sort of the back end here. If I don't know how that would appear on your screen, but yeah, just letting you know, we are sort of not granting access. So if you're getting a a rejection, that's just because that backend is for us on the presenter side. You're not missing out on anything. It's just not meant for attendees. All right, let's see if there's any others I've missed. I think we've answered everything except, as I mentioned, one that was more on the technical side and quite specific to a to a specific proposal. That one we're logging. You can also follow up with us via email. But yeah, otherwise, I think of all the ones we've accepted, they're either answered by my chat or we've made note that we will follow up with you.
Great.
Yep.
Well, thanks so much for your help, Julian. Thank you to all of the attendees and for asking these great questions. We've noted them down and we'll be publishing answers to them in the Q&A document that gets posted to our website. Again, would really encourage you to submit any further questions via email to info@nationaloffshoring.org. And then we'll work on responding to those directly and also, yeah, again, publishing them on our webpage along with the recording of this webinar.
Corey, if we have a minute here, there was one more that I think we can answer. Although I know this is a question we've been working out on the back end here, but will there be a way to have any part of proposals be confidential?
No. So all proposals are subject to public records requests. So we really strongly encourage applicants to consider this ahead of submitting any confidential information. We do, have NDAs that are required for our scores, and we don't necessarily broadcast any parts of the proposals, but in theory, we are not able to keep it strictly confidential through all stages of the proposal review process.
Great. Then, yeah, I think that's the end of the flow of questions at this time.
All right. Well, yeah, thank you again. Sorry, I see another question here.
Oh,
Yeah,
I just admitted it and was going to reply to it.
Okay, great.
But do you want to stay on for a bit, or just
yeah.
Keep trying to. There's one that I've not approved here, but it's again echoing interest for ROVs. That's something we'll follow up about, as Corey noted before. Yep, I'm not seeing anything new, Corey. I've flagged the ones that I didn't approve for follow-up, and we've got all those others that we've mentioned marked down that we didn't have an answer for.
All right, sounds great. Well, hopefully you all are able to note down this email if you have any further questions. There's also, instructions on how to do this on our webpage. So, thank you again all for joining and for your interest in this solicitation. We are open for questions via email following this. And once again, we'll be posting this recording and also answers to the questions submitted within the next week. So thank you all and have a great rest of your days. And thanks, Julian, for your help here.
Thanks, Corey.